Hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me well. I'm doing good. I am here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This is actually the first time that I've done a live broadcast with Spreaker. So I'm actually really excited. And it helps that I'm in a good mood, too. I'm just a college student that produces music and just taking life as it comes to me. But I'm also very hardworking, proactive is the word I was looking for, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at right now in life, and I'm always striving to get better and to have an even more comfortable lifestyle. There's a lot to know about me, and I have a lot to share. I could run my mouth for days. So this particular episode or podcast was what the future holds for Wolf Official. So if you didn't know already, I am a musician. I like to call myself more of a producer because I do a lot of productions with creating music videos and producing music, and I just know a lot about producing things. And I have a business background. I'm a marketing student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Proud to announce that. Worked hard for it, and was still working hard for it. And I don't know. I just I really like going and working at events. That's one of my jobs right now. Is I'm an events audiovisual specialist or technician, and what I do is I just go around, I set up events, all the audio and the video, and I really enjoy it. It can range from small things like a meeting room to very large-scale things like a big concert. So I'm kind of in the area of music and live concerts as well as small board meeting rooms. So I really enjoy what I do, and I'm highly considering using my marketing degree to go into the events field, event services and stuff like that. I really, really enjoy live concerts, and I'm in the perfect city to do it. Las Vegas is one of the capitals. I don't know if it is, but it's one of the capitals of live entertainment. So it's really, and I was born here and raised here, so I know quite a bit about what goes on and promotional stuff like that. So it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time in my life, and as you know, I have it's kind of like a record label, but more or less, I'm just kind of like doing that solo artist thing where I'm kind of like promoting myself, but I'm thinking about it, and I kind of have things together now where I could, if I wanted to, start a record label, but I'm just taking it slow, just enjoying life, and trying to make a full-time income from my music. So it's really interesting to me, music and trying to make money from doing it. I've pretty much starved my whole life trying to make a living or just make a little bit of money from music, and it's really crazy. I'll tell you what, guys, it's really crazy when you first get that first buck, when you get that first dollar from your music. It's just, I know like a lot of people, my family, they laugh sometimes when I tell them how much money I made from my music, $40, and they laugh at me, and you can't live off that and stuff like that. But to me, it was one of the hardest things I worked for. I worked 10 years to make $40, and that's just off like royalties and song downloads and stuff like that. So that's not including getting booked at concerts and performing. So I've made some big hurdles, with that, and I'm really proud. I'm really proud about that. And so now that I'm finally, I know exactly what I got to do to make more money. It's I figured that part out, and so now it's just a matter of quantity, making more, and it's just really, really exciting. And so what the future holds is quality music, continuing to make quality music, and just, I kind of make it up as I go along, but I do a lot of research, and I try to find out what it is that's going to make me not have to work so much, and that it's something that I love doing. As I mentioned earlier, I have that job where it's just a part-time job while I go to school, and it happens to be in what I love doing, which is the event services and audio-visual sort of thing. So the future holds, I want to always keep, from a business perspective, because that's what this show primarily is business. What I plan to do is keep that part-time job for as long as I can, or as long as I'm a student, and then ultimately keep trying to make more money from my music. And so that's kind of like a little bit of a business thing. You always want to keep that job. When you work for yourself, I think my dad taught me this best. You do have a lot of perks, running your own business and stuff like that. But there are some downfalls too. And so when it comes time to get a job, if you're not making enough money from your entrepreneurial job, then you have to resort to a regular job, meaning they're going to want a W-2 in that whole 9 yards. And so that's it can be not confusing. It can be frustrating because you might say you are making enough money from your business. They want certainty. Banks want certainty, like when they want to give you loans and stuff like that. And so if you're not showing like a consistent, and I do mean consistent amount of money coming in from whatever business you have, then the banks don't like that. They want to see like positive cash flow, and they want to see consistency. So if you can, the best way I think, in my opinion, to get any kind of like loan or something like that is to have show them like a graph of your money over time, something like on your computer that you've been keeping track of, like QuickBooks, Quicken, Mint, some of those. If you can show them like a graph or something like that, they're more or less likely to give you that loan because they're seeing that you're organized. It's all about how you present yourself. It's really no different than a bank, if in my honest opinion. It's not. And you might have a little bit more trouble getting a loan when you're at a bank, because it's sometimes it's a larger amount of credit that you're being given. But the point is, when you're an entrepreneur, it can be difficult, and it can also have its perks. Big perks meaning like you will pay less in taxes depending on your entity, like an LLC, sole proprietor, corporation, S or C. Forgot what the other one was. I think that might be all of them. But so there are definitely some perks, and you want to keep the most. If you'll keep the most money if you decide to be your own boss, like entrepreneur in your business. If you do that, you will ultimately keep more money than if you worked for somebody else. But the contradicting thing is that you need that W-2 most oftentimes than not to get a large credit increase. So meaning like you need a W-2 from like just a part-time job for, say you work there for a year. That's usually enough to let the bank know that you've been consistently receiving money and that you will continue to consistently receive money. And so that's it's something I had to learn. Not necessarily I had to learn it the hard way. I tried to buy a car one time, and I had cash, but I wanted to just pay little payments, slowly lose cash by making monthly payments on the car, and they wouldn't let me because I didn't have a job. So there you go. You need to have a job, and it makes sense afterwards. It made sense because you wouldn't loan how do I say this? You wouldn't loan somebody money unless they had a job. Like, you want to see money coming in, not necessarily how much cash they have. So that's kind of the contradicting thing. That's actually a big lesson to be learned. Just always keep like a little job. It doesn't have to be, $100,000 a year. Just like, just a little job, like $10 an hour. It's enough to say that you are employed, that you're working for somebody, and then have your side business. But it's not always, how do I say? It's not always smart to not have a job, because if things get rough, you run out of money, you got to have a plan B, and so the part-time job would help. A lot of you might be disagreeing with me, like, oh, I have lots of money, why do I need to do that? Well, your cash will slowly run out unless you're producing money, so you kind of have to have, like, sources of income. You have to have different ones. But, granted, like, again, I said, if you have lots of money right now, you're thinking, again, Carl, I don't need to get a job. Why do I need to get a job? This money that I have is just going to It's going to last a long time and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, when it comes to getting like loans and stuff like that, because once you have money, you always want more money, or the more money you spend, the more money or the more money you make, the more money you spend. So if you have, if you want to make more money, you usually have to get loans, like leverage. You have to leverage certain things like bank loans and credit cards and stuff like that. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you have a job. That's the first thing that they ask is, do you have a job? They don't ask you, are you an entrepreneur? Yeah, that's a bonus, but you can't always use that as a cushion. Like, you can't, it's a little bit more work than, if you factor, you just got to do some basic factoring, like your time and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're pretty much, you want a second job. Like, whether it's like a little part-time assistant, not voluntary, but like library assistant working somewhere, or I don't recommend fast food because, I don't know, that just might be a headache, but, shout out to all the fast food workers out there. Let's see here. So yeah, that's kind of like, just like a little bit of a lesson to be learned, and I love talking about business and money and stuff like that. It really is interesting to me how economies work and stuff like that. So I take that and apply that to my music business, the Wolf Official, just whatever record label, Wolf Official Music. I just apply that to that lifestyle, and so far it's doing pretty well. Like, I understand where I'm going and that ultimately I won't be working forever, so it's very cool, to have that understanding. But just like, I guess, a little bit more about what I've been up to lately is I have been, I've been having my hands in like a whole bunch of different pots, I guess you could say. I've been I don't know if I've been spreading myself too thin lately, or if I've been doing the right thing, I guess. Because I know now that I need to focus more on like a particular category for like producing beats, instrumentals and stuff like that. But I don't regret starting a magazine, the Wolf Official magazine. I don't regret getting those things started. It's just sometimes I'm hard on myself and I feel like it all has to be done right there, but that's not how it works. How it works is you gotta a little bit here, a little bit there, keep plugging away, but consistently. And so, yeah, that was sort of the deal that I had about spreading myself too thin. On top of that, you have work and school. Well, I do. And so that it kind of sucks because I have to work all of those, factor all those things in, and it can get hard, but I'm not giving up. And it gets stressful, but I'm not giving up. I may fail but a class, my math class. Math is hard. But I'm going to keep going. I'll keep retaking it until I pass it. It's just how I do things. I don't give up. And ultimately, I have great visions for what I want to see. I want to see myself on stage DJing for a lot of people. And I know it's going to come true. I believe it in my heart. I've seen so many successes in my own life where I build enough confidence to know that I can make whatever I see in my head come alive. I believe in myself that much. I've had a lot of people tell me that, that's not going to happen, or this isn't going to happen, and that, come work for me type of thing, where if you work for somebody else, you're working for their dreams, versus if you're working for yourself, you're working for your dreams. I'll say it again. If you're working for somebody else, you're helping build their dreams. But if you're working for yourself, then you're building, you're working on your dreams. So you can't let people take your sky away. If you let people take your sky away, like, what I mean is, how are you supposed to shoot for the stars if people are standing above you, looking down on you, and blocking your view of the stars? So you can't let that happen. And I hope you take that to heart, because it's so important. It's so important that you keep on believing in yourself. Even when times get hard and you run out of money, and I'm guilty of it. I've done it a few times. I've been almost homeless like once. I was never full out homeless because I didn't let that happen to me. I was so close, you guys. I was like, how do you say it? I drew this graph. I think actually this is a pretty good story. This is my story of struggle. I left my parents' house. I didn't want to live there anymore, and but it was unexpected, like an argument, and I had to go. I didn't want to stay there, and so what happened was I only had a little bit of money, okay, and I didn't have a job, and I was going to run out of money. I don't know if any of you have ever felt that before, but I drew a graph. And I watched that line of cash flow. I watched my cash drop. And I took a ruler to it on graph paper, and I saw it go down. And I was so close to running out of money. And you know what happens when you run out of money and you have big monthly bills? Like I had a car payment. I had rent. I had... What else? Wow, this is kind of like bringing a tear to me. But I slowly started running out of money. And I had it on a calendar type thing on a number line where I could see the date where I was going to run out of money. That exact date was the projected date I was going to be broke. So I looked at that, that was my proactively I was looking at that and I was saying, oh, crud, this day I'm going to run out of money. I won't be able to afford anything. Everything will crash like a house of cards. Everything will just fall. And I looked and I said, you know what, Carl, it's time to lace up. Like it's time to pull your pants up, and you need to get straight. You need to get out of this. You're gonna make it. Like I had to talk to myself, and really just believe that I am the one. I'm going to make something of myself, and that I'm gonna make money from my music. I don't care what people tell me. I'm gonna do it. I don't care how impossible it seems. This is what's gonna happen. I'm going to keep doing this particular thing. I'm going to work as hard as I can, and something's going to stick. And when it does, I'm going to win. And I won't let this happen to me again, where I run out of money and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that kind of had this similar story, where they actually lost everything. And I'm very sorry for that, for you, if that happened to you. It's very heartening. Like I know what you're going through. But all things aside, the difference between me and you, if that is what happened to you, is I didn't let that happen to me. I'm telling you, it was scary. It was really, really scary. And I said, you know what? I'll be damned if that shit happened. Oh, sorry, can I say that? I said, I'll be damned if that happens to me. That I will be damned if that happens to me. I would not let that happen. And I was close. So I had to pull up my pants on that one, and I'm just really, 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 really proud of myself. I landed the dream job. I mean, come on. I landed a dream job. The event services, audio visual. Wow, right up my alley. And so I just want you to believe in yourself. If you're in that boat right now where you don't have any money, or you're close to running out of money, just believe in yourself. You have to work at it though. You can't just believe and not take action. You have to believe that you can do this, and that you can make, you can get that job type of thing. You have to smile. You have to believe. You have to walk around like you have, a purpose in life, and that you're going to achieve and whatnot. And people will notice that, and they'll gravitate towards you. Don't let people bring you down. But I would say don't mock people. Like, I don't really believe in talking behind people's backs, or even in front of them. I don't think it's wise to do that. I think you want to keep as many friends as possible, so that you can benefit from them being around you and stuff like that. And make sure you have a good, your 5 closest friends. Make sure that they're where you want to be at in life. If not, you need to change your friends so that you're getting ready for a success. And wow, this is a long one, this episode. I've been rambling, but I'm really happy because it helps me realize when I talk out loud, kind of like where I'm at in life and stuff like that. And I know I'm not going to be around forever. And so that's why I make a lot of these digital audio, music, because that's how I want to leave my mark. And, obviously I've been doing this for a long time, and I've just been striving for success, really. And success to me is, I want to be a millionaire, but also I want to do what I love doing, and that's being a DJ, producing music, and music videos. That's all I want to do. There is, and travel. I know there's like a million more things, but like for the most part, I'll be happy if I can just travel and make money from my music, ultimately. So like I'm really blessed, but man, has it been hard. It has been so hard for me, just getting this far. I've gone through my ups and downs. I don't know if you guys knew, but I was a Marine. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, and I've been deployed, and I've had miserable times in the dirt where I was just, it was just me and my rifle and nobody to come help me, and just stranded and in a combat zone. And I guess the story goes on. And we all have our sad stories and stuff like that, but that's kind of like what keeps me sane, is by sharing those sad stories and stuff like that. And I'm always open to hearing your story. If you're there, I'll listen to you, I'll hear you out, I'll empathize, sympathize. And so, like, it's really, this life, though, is good. That's one thing my dad taught me, is that this life is good. But you have to believe in yourself, and you have to do what you love doing. Yes, the money will come. That is the true statement. If you do what you love, and you will find a way. You have to find a way. So it's like, yeah. I have another little story. When I was young, I was just living with my dad, and I remember we didn't have much money at all, and I was going to school. My dad was stressed out from work. He just got, he was going through a divorce. Well, he was over with the divorce, but, he was just raising me. And so it was really difficult for him, and, me and him, we got along, but we don't get along as we do now, as much as we did, or we do now. But I remember when I first started making the music, I was about 15 years old, and what was going on was I wasn't I guess you could say immature, but I wasn't gonna let my situation, again, I wasn't gonna let my situation dictate my future. So I had big dreams of dancing and going to Hollywood, or California, and no matter what it took, I was gonna, make something of myself. And so I kept making music hardcore, and I knew that going to Hollywood or California wasn't going to be the absolute solution. So I wanted to keep making music and getting better at it, because I knew I kind of had a talent for these writing songs things. Man, I've been doing it for a long time. And I was in my car one time. I had a Mercury Grand Marquis, kind of like a cop car. I remember I was in my car, and I was behind a Jack in the Box or something like that. And I remember recording a song, okay? I was in my car with my headphones, and I was recording a song. And what happened was, that day, I realized where I was at, and I wasn't going to be in that situation. I don't know if this is a sad story, but it's just kind of like a motivational one. I'll see what I can do to make it more inspirational. But it was me sitting in my car, and I was looking around, and I said, I have to get a job, or I have to go to work. And I had nightmares about working, because I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make music. And when I looked down at myself in the car, I was just really, I wanted to be something, and I didn't want to have to job. I didn't see why I had to work. Why do I have to work? I want to do what I love doing. And so many people try to tell me, you need to get a job and whatnot. And I did all that. And yeah, that some of those jobs helped. And, I'm thankful for my job now. But it's still, I was in my car, and I just kept making music while people were telling me, you can't do that. You have to get a job. And I said, no, I'm going to do it because I love making music. It's what I'm good at, and that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That kind of talk and that tone. And so it was really a time in my life where I said, I don't care. This isn't going to be like this forever. I'm going to be comfortable, and dang, I am comfortable now, and I can't wait till the future, because I'm going to be even more comfortable with my, my lovely house and, new cars and stuff like that. I like toys. But I just want to, I wanted to say that, wherever you're at in your life, I don't know, but what I can tell you is that it's not going to last forever. Meaning that if you work hard enough, you can achieve whatever your heart desires. And that's sincerely from my heart. That's why I do what I do, because I believe that whatever you see in front of you isn't your reality. You can do whatever your heart, whatever you believe, whatever you see, whatever the mind can conceive, mind can believe, the mind can achieve. So you have to keep pushing forward. And the biggest thing is time. I mean, look, 10 years later, I made my first $40. But I understand that it's going to keep going and the ball's going to keep rolling. So, like, you just have to understand that patience is a big thing and that it just takes time for the ball to get rolling. It's that snowball effect where you start with a little snowball and the snowball rolls down the hill. But as the snowball is rolling in the snow down the hill, it accumulates more snow. And so it becomes a bigger ball. And that's how you should look at, money seems to be the big thing where, we all struggle and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, you keep working at it, you keep learning how to make money for yourself, and you'll be a happy camper. So I just wanted to share with you that. And this is really me. This is me talking. And, I don't know if anybody's listening. It doesn't tell me, like, if anybody is, listening, which is fine, because I've been talking to myself like this for a long time. But I really, like I said, no matter where you're at in life, I don't know if you're in a crummy car, if you're in a nasty house, or on the street and you just managed to grab some phone and you're on YouTube or Spreaker right now and you're listening to me, like, I just want you to know that no matter what your situation looks like, okay, no matter what your situation looks like right now, tomorrow's a new day, okay? You get some good sleep, you wake up fresh, get yourself psyched up for the day, and do and go after what you love doing. That's all I have for you today, guys. God bless, and take care of yourselves. Enjoy this life. I'll see you on the other side. Bye.